Hello guys, it's Chummaster here doing another Beyblade ranking video. This time I'm going to do them on the Bakuten Shoot Remake bays. So, there's 19 of these things. It's effectively its own line of bays. I mean, most lines have, what, like 20 to 25 bays, so this is right there with those. A lot of bays here. So yeah, I guess I'll just go into it pretty quickly here. So, number 19, Dronzer V2. My least favorite of the remake bays. And I know this is probably a controversial one. I think Dronzer is very well liked. If you like Dronzer, you're probably not going to like this video. Anyway, Dronzer V2, I just don't like the shape. And part of this video will be based on the Burst bay itself, of course, but also just kind of based on the general bay. I mean, like the layer, for example, it's based on the original Dronzer V2, so me not liking that means I just don't like the original. So again, part of this is, you know, the original plastic stuff, part of it's the Burst remake. But anyway, don't like the shape of the layer. And then also the parts here, Zero Cross, very boring in my opinion. Reboot Dash is okay, I guess, but still. Zero Cross is just such a boring part selection for a V2 bay released in 2021. So I just don't really like it that much. It's just boring, honestly. Again, I really don't like this layer shape at all. I don't know what happened to Dronzer, honestly. Number 18, Drasil V2. So, Drasil is probably my favorite motif of Plastic Gen. Not to say it's my favorite bay of any line particularly, I just like the motif a lot. And, well, I don't like Drasil V2. The shape just doesn't feel like Drasil, and I guess you could argue it's probably better than some of the spiky shapes, but still, I just don't care for it. Color is very nice, though, and that might be what makes me put it above Dronzer V2, because it's not that much further above it, but, yeah, Drasil V2 is very whatever. Also, again, underwhelming disc selection. 10 turn. This is a 2023 bay. Technically speaking, it's the final Burst bay ever, and you gave it 10 turn. No. Again, it's just so underwhelming in my opinion. Planet Dash, sure I guess, but yeah. Disc selection is just so underwhelming, and I don't like the layer shape, which is why it's so low. Number 17, Dronzer V. I just don't like the shape for Dronzer very much, honestly. Hurricane's fine enough to mention, whatever, I guess, sure. It just comes down to the fact that I don't really like this layer shape that much for Dronzer. Nothing else to say about it. Number 16, Dronzer S. Probably the most neutral bay on the list. So I actually do like these plastic remakes a decent bit, but yeah, the layer just seems very okay to me. Spread, trans, sure. Nothing wrong with this bay, but there's just nothing that I particularly like about it, so again, just kind of exists. Number 15, Drigger F. So, Drigger F is a weird one. I'm actually not the biggest fan of this layer shape for Drigger, but at the same time I don't mind it too much, it's just kind of okay. Zero Extend is fine. This bay is just very alright to me. I think it's a little bit more interesting than Dronzer S, but it's not getting much further above it, because again, yeah, it just kind of exists, honestly. I guess the sticker designs are pretty cool, though. Number 14, Dronzer F. This is the final Dronzer. It's at number 14. As I said, if you like Dronzer, you're not going to like this video. Anyway. Dronzer F's layer design is much better than Dronzer S's in my opinion, just a nice evolution of it, so pretty good. Yell Zeta, solid part choices. This bay just feels very solid and I like it, but again, there's just not much here that I care that much about. So it just exists again. Number 13, Dragoon S. I like Dragoon S. It's a cool bay, I like the layer design, nothing too crazy, but it's solid. Wing is okay enough. Extreme, very cool. Just a fun bay, honestly. That's why it's up here. Number 12, Dragoon F. Dragoon F just feels like a better Dragoon S in my opinion. I like the layer design a bit more, gravity's better. Variable, while not technically better than Extreme, I guess it just feels a little bit more interesting in some ways, so I'll take Variable. Yeah. Overall, just feels like a little bit of a better version of Dragoon S, so it's one spot above Dragoon S. Number 11, Drasil S. I really, really want to like this bay more than I do. Something about this layer design is just great. I really like Drasil S in plastics, actually. Even if it's a little bit impractical, I've always just liked it. Central is a perfectly fine disc for this bay, but what really lowers this thing and why it's not higher up, it would have for sure been higher up, at least by a few spots. Press. Why? Why do they give this thing press? That was a pretty terrible part choice, and I really want to put this bay higher, but I can't put it any higher than this. Even this might be too high of a spot for Drasil S. For me, probably could have put it even under like Trons or F, but like at the same time, I still do really like two of the three parts here. So I'm not going to, but yeah, it's a little bit of a weird one in terms of placement anyway. Alright, dead center of the list. Gaia Dragoon V. I like this bay. The layer design's pretty cool, and I also really, really like this piece right here. It spins. It's just fun to mess with, honestly, and yeah, it's a pretty cool piece. As far as the part selection goes, 10 expand, pretty decent. Also iron, not bad. Yeah, this bay just feels very, very solid yet again, but also I just really like this piece a lot. I don't know. It's just kind of cool, so I guess, yeah, I'll put it above some of the other ones that I think are just kind of solid bays. Top half of the list now, with number 9, Dragoon V. Dragoon V is just a very solid layer. I kind of prefer S and F in some ways, but this layer is still pretty cool. But then the parts. Sting Evolution, yeah, this makes me like it quite a bit more, I think. Sting is a really cool disc, and I think just the white with the white driver, the white layer looks really nice. Evolution looks pretty cool too, good part choice, plus I like the gray rubber. Yeah, I just like Dragoon V quite a bit. It's just a really nice bay. Not a lot to say about it, but yeah, it's nice. Number 8, Drasil F. Drasil F, it just feels like a better Drasil S to me. I like the layer design a ton. 10 planet, pretty solid part choices, I would say. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't use press, so that's a pretty big benefit there. In all honesty, Drasil S should have been one spot behind this thing, but they used press, so it didn't happen. But yeah, Drasil F is a really cool bay, definitely a big fan of it. Would have been maybe cool to see a frame on this thing, but whatever, I guess. I know for the Trigger F, Drasil F, and Wallborg, they were just core discs. Again, would have been cool to see frames on them, but they didn't do that for Dragoon F or Dronzer F, so I do kind of get it. So yeah, still pretty good nonetheless. Number 7, Trigger S. Just such a solid early bay. I really like this layer a lot. It looks so clean. You got heavy fusion. Heavy's a really cool part. Fusion's just kind of whatever, honestly. I'm not the biggest fan of it. If not for fusion, I might have put this at least one spot higher, but it's fine enough. Maybe it's just a little bit of nostalgia for me because this was the first Plastic Gen bay, and being around in like the Beyblade community in 2016, this was such a hype release to finally see some remakes come out. So yeah, this one's definitely a little bit of nostalgia for me just because of that. But yeah, I think Trigger S is still a great remake bay. I really, again, like this layer design a ton. Part choices, not the biggest fan of fusion, but hey, it's not the worst thing ever, I guess, on a bay like this, and then heavy's pretty nice, so yeah. Number 6, Wallborg. I really like Wallborg a lot. This layer design's great. It does the four-sided thing pretty well, I think. Also, 8, again, would have been nice to see a frame, but I get why they didn't. Still a solid disc choice here. And then, of course, Bearing, the perfect driver here for Wallborg. It just ends up being a really good combo and a really nice remake, so that's why it's so high up. Not a lot to say about it, it's just really cool. Number 5, Trigger V. If Trigger S had a driver I liked more, it probably would have been one spot below this, but yeah, I just want to mention it now. But yeah, Trigger V itself, Really cool layer design. I feel like it just expands on Trigger S really nicely. And maybe incorporating some elements of F, but not like a ton, which I don't really mind that because I'm not the biggest fan of Trigger F, but yeah. In terms of parts, you got 10 reach, which is perfectly serviceable, and weight, which is a sensible driver choice here. It just looks like a really cool bay, and I like this remake quite a bit. And yeah, it made top 5. So yeah, it's a pretty cool bay. Actually, maybe Trigger S would have been above this. I really like the layer design a lot, but yeah. Again, Fusion holds it back. This thing just has good part choices all around, so I'm putting it at number 5. Number 4, Dragoon V2. Okay, this layer design I was kind of unsure of for a while, but I really like this layer design a lot. I do wish for the V2 base that they did more with the SP parts. We'll get to that later, but outside of that, this is a really cool layer. Wheel works well here, and you got the blue, the black painted disc, which works great. Also, Explosion Dash, wish the Dash version was more accessible, but hey, I think it works really well for Dragoon V2. And this just makes for a really cool remake bay. Again, I like the layer design a ton. Disc choice was not bad. If you're not using a DV disc, this is probably the next best thing. Plus, they got the paint right. And yeah, Explosion Dash. Just a really, really good remake bay. Number 3, Drasil V. By far my favorite Drasil in general, even with plastics. I like this layer design a ton. I like the shift to dark green. I think that was a great move. Layer design has the spikes and actually looks good with them. And then it has a round orbit metal. Such a great choice of parts here. I think a round orbit metal works perfectly for Drasil. And this is just a great bay. Honestly, could have been number 1, but there's the other 2 bays which I like a little bit more. I'll explain why, but yeah. Great. Number 2, Gaia Dragoon. Another great layer design here, big fan of it. Around Hunter Dash, I think Around is another good choice here. Hunter Dash also pretty great. I probably could have put Drasil V above this thing pretty easily, but the reason I didn't... My hand's in the way. This thing. This is the reason. It's kind of stupid, but I just like this thing enough to where, yes, it is going to beat out Drasil V. That is all. Otherwise it would have been number 3, but yeah. I don't know. It's just really, really fun. But with that said, I think there's a pretty clear number 1 choice for the remake bays. This is no surprise, I think. I think everyone probably would agree with this one. And that is Drigger V2. Drigger V2 is easily the best remake bay. Layer design looks great. They nailed the SP parts. Illegal being painted like the rest of the layer works perfectly, and it also is just a good disc choice. Wedge Dash, solid choice as well. This bay just works perfectly, and that's really all there is to it. It is the best remake by far, in my opinion, and has good part choices. The design looks great. The plastic version also looks great. And again, I wish they would have done more with the SP parts for the other V2 bays. It would have been perfect. Give them all DB discs, give them all SP parts like this. They developed Trigger V2's own layer system and only used it for it. I don't know why they didn't use it for the other V2 bays. This is what the other V2 remakes should have been, but they weren't for whatever reason. And unfortunately, they suffer because of it. While this thing is, in my opinion, easily number 1, Dragoon V2 with proper SP parts, I think, would have been number 2. And I honestly think, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Dronzer V2 or Drasil V2, with better SP parts, they easily could have been much higher up. At least middle of the list. So yeah, with that said, this is an easy number 1 for me, Drigger V2. And with that, that's all for this video. Pretty quick ranking video considering that there were 19 bays, but they're not really that crazy in terms of gimmicks. There's not a lot to say, so anyway, yeah, that's my list. So thanks for watching, and bye-bye.